So England are just one step away from making it to the first FIFA World Cup since 1966.
Yep.
Harry Kane's side has been outstanding in the knockout stages. The Three Lions registered a comeback win against Congo, followed by eliminating host Mexico, despite being reduced to 10 men, and convincing win against Norway. And with me to talk about England's chances and also the upcoming semi-final clash against Argentina, I have none other than former Chelsea, Aston Villa, and Nottingham Forest legend Kenny Swain. So, welcome to Revsportz. How do you sum up England's campaign so far in the FIFA World Cup 2026?
It's probably what I expected. I didn't think they'd be going storming in in the first few games. I thought it might take a bit of time for them to gel. But the big challenge, which is, and they've overcome it, and probably more so than anybody ever thought they would or believed they would, um, in overcoming in that game. I think the Norway one was going to be a very, very difficult one because we know the Norwegians well. Lots of them play in the Premier League, and all their best players usually play in the leagues around Europe. So I knew that that's not a true reflection of their game, which brings me to the reflection on our game, the Premier League, where I didn't have any fears at all. I wasn't spooked by 50 games at the Azteca Stadium, and they've only lost two. I don't know who they lost their games to, and I don't know who they've been playing, but it wouldn't have been the caliber of teams that play in Europe and the European competitions as well, or indeed the players. And I thought, and that's not being disparaging here, I did think I found it hard to name one player that I would put into the England team with a Mexican player. And when you think on those terms, it's very difficult for me to actually think that we can lose this game. But they were taken to the wire simply because they had a player sent off, and they decided, or when I say they decided, Thomas Tuchel decided that we'll camp out, we'll clear the ball, and we'll deal with all their crosses. And I think possibly, if you're going to criticise anyone, it's it's the tactics Mexico used for the last 20 minutes, where they just bombarded, and there wasn't a plan B.
Yeah, obviously there has been a lot of chatter around is coming home in the last few World Cups. But this time round, do you think England has a very, very good chance of perhaps making it to the finals and going on to lift the cup?
Well, the answer to that is yes, and yes, and yes, because even from the start, I backed England to go all the way and to win it. And I know there's challenges. I know we had Brazil, we've had Germany, they've dropped out, Portugal have gone. And then you've got France, Argentina, Spain, and England. And they were probably the four nations, or four of six nations, that FIFA wanted to end up with at this semi-final stage. So we could be playing France. I think we'd overcome them. We could be playing Spain. I think we'd overcome them as well. But we're playing Argentina. We haven't played Argentina for some years, but I think we'll overcome them. And I believe we'll get to the final. And I believe we're going to win the final, whoever we meet. And in fact, that's what I'm really looking forward to. It's not tomorrow's game, because I'm taking that as that's done.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that game. I'm more excited about who we meet in the final.
Okay. So talking about Jude Bellingham, he has been one of the standout performer for England, having already scored 6 goals so far. He has been outstanding against Mexico and Norway. Do you reckon he is arguably the best attacking midfielder for England now?
Well, without a shadow of a doubt, he's been the most effective player, probably just behind our famous striker. So I can't really compare them because I just think he's a goal scorer as well, but he's a goal maker, and I think as a duo, the partnership there with with the attacking sense, I think is pretty outstanding. The only other nation I think who can match that, with two players or two goal threats, are probably France, obviously, and Doué and Mbappe. Those two as a pair, they are potent. They are really potent. And I think our two as well.
Yeah, so talking about Harry Kane, do you think that he has been one of the most inspirational captain for England?
Um, I would say he's the most inspirational captain in my lifetime. Yeah, when I say lifetime, how old was I in 1966? I was 14 years of age, and Bobby Moore was our leader. And for a few years afterwards, when I'm growing up and getting to 20, 21, 22, he was still you know, the big influence. But I think the achievements and the levels that he's played at now, Harry Kane, puts him, for me, puts him, above Bobby Moore even.
So, talking about Thomas Tuchel in the post-match press conference after the game against Norway, he did criticize his boys' performance. Do you agree that England did to improve on their game? Means obviously the coach coming up and making a statement that he was not very satisfied with the way they performed against Norway.
Well, he always has, I think anyway, he's always got two objectives in mind. One is the result, which is probably the most important one, but he doesn't want to pay too much attention to the result and how we got it. He's more interested in his plan and did they stick to the plan and were they effective in delivering that plan? And if they've fallen short, he becomes more critical of his main aim because I believe what he believes, which is, if you play well, if you play at your best, that gives you the best chance that you've got of winning a football match. If you're short in areas and you're not quite producing, then you're at the mercy of, what might happen. And I think he's just being very personal when he says it, even though it might sound as though he's criticising the team. He's actually talking about himself and his own, not ambitions, but his own incentives, for the game. He wants England to win first and foremost, and they've done that. But that's not enough for him because he wants to satisfy his own needs and his own ambitions.
So talking about the rivalry with Argentina in World Cup, it goes back to that infamous hand of God goal by Diego Maradona. You so talk us about the rivalry between these two nations and also that World Cup quarter-final match where David Beckham were flashed a red card after he committed a foul against Diego Simeone. So
Yeah.
the rivalry between Argentina and England. Can you just talk us about this rivalry in football?
Well, real rivalry comes about when you're playing, your neighbours. For instance, England playing Germany or England playing, Spain or France or Italy. Um, but with Argentina, we've so rarely met that I could hardly call them, you know, foes or even friends. Because we just haven't played against them very often. But we both have traits. I think we have traits of calmness, and they have traits of they can be a bit volatile now and again. We know that because they are Latin by nature, and so the rivalry doesn't come into my thoughts. What comes into my thoughts is Argentina. The following and the support they get is incredible, and they've been led by Maradona in the past, and now Messi, who he's just excelled more than I thought he would do for this tournament. He looks as fresh as a daisy, and he's scoring goals. He's making goals, and yeah, I think he plays with a smile, and I think he's so humble. I don't know him, but he looks the kind of guy who's so humble. And you can see that because his teammates absolutely love him. And if I was one of his teammates, I think I would love him as well and kiss him at the end of games because he does quite often. He does settle games, on his own.
So talking about this Argentina team, they haven't really looked impressive so far. Means how do you look forward to the semi-final clash against Messi. Means obviously it has all been centered around Lionel Messi. Means obviously he's the top scorer right now, along
Mhm.
with Mbappe. But the other stuff, forwards in that Argentina side, be it a Julian Alvarez or a Lautaro Martinez, they haven't really fired, though they scored goals in the last match. So, do you think that Argentina's over reliance on Lionel Messi can just might give an edge to England, or what does England need to do so as to unsettle the Argentines and march into the finals?
Yeah, you cannot ignore Messi at any stage in the game at any time. You cannot ignore him. I don't think you remember the days when we used to call it man marking. We'll put somebody on him and follow him around, etc. Well, I think that's gone those days. I think what's more important now is the game plan and how you can play when you're out of possession, and indeed how we play when you're in possession. But Messi, you cannot ignore him at any stage in the game, and he has got that ability to be, the best in the world, even even at his age now.
Final couple of questions. Obviously, in the quarterfinal against Switzerland, Argentina struggled as Messi was heavily marked. So, what do you reckon would be Tuchel's strategy against Argentina?
I don't think they'll worry about him where he goes, etc. It's just a case of whenever he's in the final third of the field, and certainly in and around the box, he needs attention. We all need to be aware. It's like a radar system. We need to know where the biggest threat is, and, and not forget about the guy who's in possession of the ball. He's the fellow who can score the goal. But if that ball goes out to Messi, then all of a sudden, like anything can happen when he's got it. I think the tactics will be England will want to they'll want to have more possession of the ball than Argentina. And if they achieve that, that'll make the victory that I'm predicting a little bit easier. If we
My
get more
final
possession.
my final question to you before we wrap it up: who, according to you, would be the X factor for England for the semi-final against Argentina? Obviously, there are multiple performers for England. You have a Anthony Gordon who has been superb. You have a Bukayo Saka. You have a Harry Kane who has been inspirational. So as well as Jude Bellingham. But for Kenny Swain, if I may ask you, who, according to you, could be the X factor for England in the semi-final against Argentina?
Well, it would be easy to say that Jude Bellingham would be a telling factor in the game for England. It's easy to say that. But in actual fact, I'm happier that we've got the likes of Saka. He's fit. Um, Gordon is now playing at his peak. He looks every time he picks it up, he wants to go forward. And he would be a big threat for us, not necessarily for scoring goals, but a big threat for any defenders. And he's proven that over this tournament. But I think it'll be the organisation, particularly out of possession, that will win the game for them, because I'm sure we'll get goals, from Harry Kane or Jude, and a goal might come from somewhere else. Um, I'd like to think that we can get Rice fit in time for the game, because he's a stalwart as well. When you look at the backbone of the team, you've got a fantastic goalkeeper, Jordan Pickford, um, who I gave him his England debut under 16, but he's a fantastic character as well, not just a great technician in goal. And the centre backs who've proven to be more than competent. I know they've got better as we've gone on, but there were doubts at the start. But I think that spine down the middle, and with Declan Rice in there and Harry Kane in there, I think that would be a telling feature for me. That spine of Harry Kane, Declan Rice, if he's fit, and that's nothing to. I'm not saying he will be fit or he won't be fit, but I think I'd like to see him in midfield and the central defence, obviously.
Thank you very much, Mr. Swain. It was a pleasure talking to you, and we hope that England goes on to win their game against Argentina, and perhaps, obviously, as we have been saying, is it coming home? We all anticipate that this time will be really, it will be finally coming home for England after 1966. So keep watching this space to get all the updates throughout our coverage of sports. That was Kenny Swain exclusive talking to us ahead of the semi-final between Argentina and England. Thank you very much, sir. So that's it for now. Keep watching
Look
Red
forward,
Sports.
look forward to speaking to you after the final.
Thank you. Absolutely.